Hello, everybody. Welcome to Little Rusty Bucket. Subscribe to the channel and drop a like. Trying to hit 40K subs over here, so that subscription would be much appreciated. I wanted to make a video about the Miami Heat today because they have been really impressive to me so far this year. I watched their first game against the Orlando Magic that they did lose 121 to 125. However, they were in it the whole way, and I'm a big believer in the Orlando Magic this year, so I was kind of expecting an absolute blowout in that game, but they were right there neck and neck basically the whole way. I do think they executed kind of poorly in the clutch, but that's really the only criticism I could have for them in that game. I didn't watch the game against the Grizzlies, but they absolutely fucking decimated them. It was 148 to it was 148 or 146 to 114. They had 84 first half points, you said it was, or is it 86? 86 first half points versus the Grizzlies, which is the most that the Grizzlies have ever given up in one half. So they blew them out of the water. And then they beat the Knicks last night 115 to 107, and I actually think they did close out that game rather strong. If I had to guess, I would say they probably had the better offensive fourth. No, it was only by a matter of 1 point. You know what happened? I think the Knicks started to close the gap midway through that quarter, and then they shut it down towards the end. So on the back half of that fourth quarter, they closed out pretty well. And this has been like in a way that I think is fairly sustainable, because it's worth mentioning they're obviously without Tyler Hero here. And their starting lineup has been Davion Mitchell, Norman Powell, Khalil Ware, Bam Adebayo, and Andrew Wiggins. And I pointed this out in my my Rusty Buckets upload, the NBA so far, talking about the versatility of that starting lineup when Tyler Hero is there, because between all of those guys, almost all of them can shoot at least a little bit. Ware and Adebayo are at the very least willing to shoot. Bam also, he didn't shoot the three well in this game, but I believe he has overall on the season. Yeah, he was 1 for 5 for this one. But his first two games, he was quite efficient. And also, a big thing that stood out to me is he also isn't like overwhelmingly taking the most amount of shots, besides for, again, Tyler Hero is not playing. In this one, he shot 15, which tied for the most with Norman Powell, but Jaime Jaquez was right there with 12. I've just liked the lineup balance. I've liked the offensive approach. When we look at offensive rating thus far this year, through 3 games, obviously, the Miami Heat are the 10th best offense in the league, and they have the 3rd best defense. The starter in place of Tyler Hero is Davion Mitchell, so that adds some defensive punch to that lineup. He had a really great first game. He had 9 and 6 in this one, was not as amazing, but he adds that defensive punch. Norman Powell's not all that great of a defender, but other starters, Ware is a good rim protector, pretty good defender. Bam Adebayo is one of the best defenders in the NBA, and Andrew Wiggins is a really good defender. So, like, across the board, there's a lot of good defense here. There's a lot of capable shot creation. There's a good amount of playmaking. And also, I want to point out from the bench, Jaime Jaquez and Simone Fontecchio have been really, really good so far. Fontecchio in this game versus the Knicks, 5 for 8 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3 for 14 points. I think he's right at about 14 points on average. Yeah, Fontecchio is averaging 13.7, 50% from 3 on 5 attempts per game, also 80% on his 3 2-pointers. But Jaime Jaquez is a player who I kind of started to give up on, because he had a really impressive rookie season, and then he slowly but surely found himself falling out of the rotation last year. Even as after the Jimmy Butler trade happened, he was still not getting nearly the minutes. So I was like, I don't know. Eric Spoelstra can be a little bit unlenient about pulling a guy's minutes. I always felt like, as much as I think Eric Spoelstra is great, that he kind of just sidelined Duncan Robinson for a very long time, kind of unfairly. But Jaime is right back in the fold here, and so far this year, he's averaging 16.7 rebounds, 4 assists, and he's shooting 71% from the field. That is obviously not sustainable, and he has not hit a 3, so he still does not have the 3 ball in his game really at all. But he is making like a really early 6th man of the year bid. Like I said, 70% from the field is not going to maintain. But very good stuff from him. Fontecchio looking like a great addition. Andrew Wiggins has played okay thus far, even though he's not hitting his threes. Jovic has also played really well. This Knicks game was kind of a quiet one from him. However, in the Grizzlies game, he had 20 points and shot 6 for 9, 3 for 6 from 3. And in the Orlando Magic game, he started and he had 9 points, but 2 for 3 from 3. Only played 23 minutes. I don't know. I was impressed by the time that he played. He was a +8, so there is that. Yeah, this team is deeper than I kind of gave it credit for. This is, again, without at least who should be their best offensive player, Tyler Hero. Their best scorer is probably Norman Powell, and he's the real big addition that arguably completely saved them from being bad this year. He's averaging 24 points per game through 3 games, but he's not much of a distributor, and that's the one thing that this offense is lacking, is a primary distributor. However, they have Davion Mitchell, who's been the primary distributor, but like ideally, I like a primary distributor who's more of a scoring threat than Mitchell is. They are still doing, like, other than Mitchell doing the playmaking, kind of a playmaking by committee thing. As of right now, the Miami Heat are 8th in assists per game as a team. That is quite good for a team that only really has one guy who's out here getting 8 assists. So yeah, like I when I came to the Eastern Conference, honestly, the bottom half of both conferences, just a real bitch to predict, because the West, it's because there's so many good competitive-ish teams that are towards the bottom of that tier. And then in the East, there's so many mediocre teams that are at the bottom of the tier. Between the Heat, between the Hornets, the Sixers, the Hawks, the Raptors, and the Celtics and the Pacers, I was like, oh, I could see any of those teams filling out the bottom 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference, but it's kind of looking like the Heat might be one of the teams to make the playoffs in the East. As always with this stuff, this is very early, so this is subject to change. This could just very well be a hot start. Certainly, Jaime is shooting the ball better than he will be down the line. Norman Powell is shooting it a little better than he will be, just because 50% from 3 is not going to maintain. But otherwise, like, I do feel like this is mostly sustainable. Like, I feel good about 8 rotation players here, and then it'll be 9 when Tyler Hero is back. And I mean, like, very good. I mean, like, all of these guys I'm confident can be 20 plus minutes per game, and a really effective 20 minutes at that. Drew Smith, who I don't know much about, he is 28. I don't know why I thought he was a rookie. He's fucking barely played in the NBA. That's why. He's played 41 games through 3 seasons. But he's the only guy who's gotten real minutes that I'm kind of on. He's shooting 44% from 3, so he's doing that at the bare minimum. But yeah, this team, better than I gave it credit for. The Eastern Conference in general, kind of in a weird spot. The Atlanta Hawks have been pretty disappointing thus far, but that's mostly just because Trae Young has been kind of bad, and I don't expect him to continue to be as bad as he has been. But yeah, there's your update. The Miami Heat, dude. The Miami Heat are good. Watch, and they're not only are they pretty good, they're really fun to watch because they have this more team-oriented approach. So far this year, they have 7 players averaging double figures points. Davion Mitchell's averaging 9, so he's just short of it being 8 players in double figures on average. Like, a very team-oriented play. And I gotta say, Eric Spoelstra, I feel like I kind of I don't want to use the term overrated. That's oversimplified. Just that I have not been blown away by anything that he has done as a coach the last, like, 2-3 seasons. This is very clearly a case of taking a roster that has a good amount of talent, and then a great coach is taking that talent and taking them from what should be okay competitive team to, like, genuinely pretty good. So I do think that could stick. I do think because it is Eric Spoelstra, the best coach in the league, this all could stick. The last thing I want to mention, just because I was kind of also doing a little bit of a Eastern Conference roundup here. Oh yeah, Charlotte Hornets, dude. They played another game. Their second game was against the Sixers, and it was really close, and they lost that game late. But this time around, their third game was against the Wizards. So again, a not very good team, even though the Wizards did beat the Mavericks the other day. However, Absolute insane performance from LaMelo. 38, 13, 13, and 3 steals. Colin Sexton had a 20 piece. Not Ryan Cockbrenner. Con Knipple had a 20 piece. Miles Bridges had a 20 piece. Tons and tons and tons of offense for this team. And it's just so much better organized. There's so much more of a team approach. Something that I neglected to mention in my Hornets video was that they have like, I think their first game, let me go find their first game, just firm this. I think they had like 80% of their shots were assisted, some shit like that. 33 assists on 48 made field goals. That's a very exceptional ratio. So that's over 2/3. Yeah, I'm loving the way the Hornets are playing. And I think, seriously, I realize it is hard to buy into the idea of the Charlotte Hornets being good, but it's not that far-fetched given the team play that they've had and the fact that this team is more talented than it's pretty much ever been. Brandon Miller also got hurt in that second game, so you could argue they would have won it with him, even though I will say he was having a bad game up till that point. I'm ringing the alarm bells. Watch the Charlotte Hornets. They're fun. I don't think they'll be much better than 500, assuming that health allows for them to get to that point. But like, as long as they are able to have consistent enough health, I think they will at the bare minimum be a very competitive and a very fun team. But yeah, that's the Eastern Conference right now. I will continue to check in. There's so much stuff to talk about. It's a very weird whiplash to go from, man, I'm really just making shit up to talk about for the off season in like September and October. And then it gets to the end of October, and now I have the complete opposite problem where it's like decision paralysis, and there's so many things I want to talk about. I also want to talk about Giannis. I want to talk about the 0-3 Celtics right now. Yeah, so lots of chat to come, but that'll be it. Goodbye.